Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Will Podcast. I am joined today by Dina Cataldo, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Dina is a master certified coach who helps lawyers love their lives while growing their law practices. She was a criminal prosecutor for over 15 years, has had multiple different businesses, which we're going to talk about, is a cancer survivor, and she's also the host of the Be a Better Lawyer podcast. She loves helping lawyers stop feeling overwhelmed and live full lives. And Dina is living quite a full life herself. This is so juicy. I'm really excited for this conversation, Dina.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, continuing our conversation from my podcast and getting to talk more, which is fun because I know you and I have a lot in common in terms of our interests.
In terms of our interests, and I think in some ways, like the coaching journey. So I'd love to talk about all those things. But let's start with your lawyer journey and how you decided to become a lawyer, and tell us about your initial career in law.
Well, I didn't really go to law school to be a lawyer. I really thought I was going to get into foreign policy. I lived in Egypt for a year, and during that time, there was a lot going on. September 11th happened, 7 days into my stay there while I was studying abroad. I mean, it was very much a time focused on foreign policy. I'm living in another country. And so my thought process was the people that I see who are in positions of power are lawyers. I see people advising people in power. Those people are lawyers. Okay, I want to be a lawyer. And so that was really my thought process.
So interesting to have influence and be able to do important work in the world.
Honestly, I went into law school thinking that my path was going to be foreign service. And I really did not plan to stay as long as I did. So it was really interesting for me. The way I even got into becoming a criminal prosecutor is because I went to the law school office, the clinic they were offering, and they said, oh, you're interested in writing, so we'll put you with the DA's office, which makes no sense looking back at it. But at the time, I didn't know anything about anything. So I went in there and I started to get really interested in the stories, because if anybody listening is familiar with criminal law, it's all about the stories. You're reading police reports. You've got these humans who are in life that you cannot make up, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it is something that compelled me, which I think stories compel everybody. And I ended up staying in the DA's office, but along the way, I had a journey that really shifted the way I thought I was going to be in this world. Because high achiever, that's all I've ever been. Get all the A's, go to the schools and all of the things. And that's going to guarantee my success and my happiness. And what I discovered is that wasn't true at all.
So what happened?
Well, I was 29 years old. So just a little context, I was about 3 years into my trial career at the DA's office. And during that time, there had actually been 2 other women who were diagnosed with cancer, and they had both passed. They both died from their experiences. After I passed all the initial fear and uncertainty, I had this experience where I decided, okay, I'm going to do chemotherapy and radiation, and I'm going to stay home and do that because I could have paid leave for a few months while I was doing that. And during that time, I had never felt more relaxed. I had never enjoyed my time more. I had never realized that I was under so much stress and anxiety and pressure. I thought my whole life before that was just normal, that I was walking through this world like everybody else in the universe, and that was normal. And I had this moment during chemotherapy where I was like, this can't be right. How can I be experiencing all of this joy in my life? And I'm on chemo. Everybody told me this was going to be the worst experience of my life. And this is the best experience right now.
God. Wow. That's like a gut punch. Wow.
It was really eye-opening. And so when I went through that experience, I started asking myself, well, if this is more what I want, how do I start to change my law practice, which is kind of the backwards way that I would think of now. I would think more of, oh, how do I change myself so that I can be in this practice? And that's what I ended up doing through coaching. But over the years, that developed.
Yeah, but you started where you were. You're like, how can I change my law practice to squeeze in more relaxation or whatever? How are you thinking about like the time that you wanted to expand? Like you wanted to change your law practice so you had more bandwidth to relax, to do what? To enjoy life. You were like, I want to change my law practice so I can do more what?
Well, here's what's so fascinating, right? Because the way we're talking about it is like, oh, so I can enjoy my life more, right? Is what my brain was telling me. But because I was a high achiever, because I had all this programming over the years that hard work and effort is what creates a better life, I, of course, approached my quote unquote problem from that same mindset. And having that mindset didn't work so awesomely.
Oh my God, I just got chills. Like you were working with the paradigms you had, which was like, I'm going to go ham on my relaxation, like enjoying life. And like, how I achieve that.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do the DA's office thing. I am going to go to yoga. And actually, during the course of yoga, I came to realizations like I need to let go of some things. And one of those things was the foreign policy dream. It didn't even align with the lifestyle I wanted, nothing. The people that I would be around, I dropped that. But then I added on, let's start a business. I'm glad I did. It was something that continually came up for me as I was starting to just kind of write thoughts in a journal inconsistently. And I was like, why am I not doing this? And in yoga, they drop these little knowledge bombs. And one of them was like, if you're feeling fear, like that's the direction to go. And I started to like recognize how that was true in my life and how that worked for me. And I said, why am I not starting a business? And it was because I was scared. And I was like, oh, I need to go towards that.
So tell us about that business.
Well, the first business that I started was the only one that I could think of that was in the paradigm I was used to. My dad had a brick and mortar store as I was growing up, and I never wanted to start a business. I associated it with worry and pain and suffering because I watched what my dad went through. But I just knew I needed to do this. There was something calling me to do it. And I said, okay, let's go. And I started a loose leaf tea business because I loved tea. I loved the health aspect of it, right? There are lots of antioxidants, all those things. And that was kind of the journey I was on at that time around my health. And so I did all of the things. I hired my friend as a designer, created the packaging, website, did all the work. I mean, and I worked hard. Like there were years involved with creating my website, like that kind of thing.
Totally.
But I kept pushing through it because I didn't have the mindset tools yet. I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I was exhausted, but I created the business. It did not have a lot of traction. It was in part because I hated the business I created. Like I was creating it from old paradigms and I didn't even realize it.
It was a should. I should do something.
It was the only thing I knew how, not even a should. It was just, that's all I knew. And so as I and I needed to start somewhere. So I'm glad I did it that way. But when I got into it, I started to also see, wait a minute, what's this coaching thing? Like why all these business people have coaches? What is that about? Why are all these successful people? What do they have coaches? What do they know that I don't know? And so I started looking into coaching and I hired a coach. And it took about a year into our sessions where I realized, wait a minute, I want to be a coach. I want to do these things. And that's where I started working towards becoming the coach that I am today.
It's so exciting. So beautiful. And where were you in your legal career then? What was happening for you?
Still a criminal prosecutor, still doing all the things, but I was finding ways to do it more effectively with the coaching. I was learning I had more power over my life than I had really given myself credit for. And before I had very much been in victim mentality, like, oh my gosh, this is just what I have to do. This is how it has to be. This is what I need to do in order to make money, in order to be happy eventually, versus how can I take responsibility over my life right now so that I am consciously creating my life now as a lawyer and happy now as a lawyer and not waiting for some like magical day when I'm 65 where I can suddenly have all the happiness.
I love it. So you're doing that. You're shifting your internal view of your personal power and what you have control over in terms of your legal career and your day to day. You're not waiting.
And that was amazing because I started just making little changes here and there, and it started to really build my confidence and show me like, oh, wait a minute, I can actually just do anything I want. And that was pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. And then tell us, how did you transition out of legal and were you growing your coaching practice? Tell us about that transition out.
As I was lawyering, I was noticing how I could create the practice that I wanted, and I felt really good in it. And I was doing the things that I wanted in my practice and in my life, and it just felt really good. And then I started incorporating a few sessions while I was working at the office. And more people started hiring me over the last couple of years of my career there. And then I got to a point where I was like, this is it. Like, I need to leave. I could stay here forever or just make the decision to leave, even though it's scary. And so I put in my notice. I think I gave like 6 months notice because I was just like, I need to just put it in now or I'm going to change my mind. So let's just do it now. And I gave myself a little run there so I could like try to build my confidence. And then I went out on my own and I was like, okay, here we go.
So you gave yourself a 6-month runway, which is awesome. You were a single woman, right? Was leaving was it a state job or a city job?
It's a county job.
Benefits, vested pension, all the things, all the trappings of a government job. You felt the fear and you were heading towards it. What was the story you were telling yourself? What was the internal narrative that helped you believe that you could do this and make this change?
My thoughts, I had to really consciously direct my thoughts. In fact, that 6 months, I had created a lot of pressure for myself in the way I was thinking about it. And so it was actually really hard for me to work during that time on my business. So then, of course, I created all this fear, all this like worry around the business. But I was like, nope, I'm doing it. We've already made the decision. We're doing it. I had taken out some money because I had savings. I had all of that. So that was really great. But I had to keep telling myself, it's working. It's happening. Like I see it. And I had to show myself mentally, like, look how you're growing. Look how you've grown over the years. Like, look what you're doing. You're capable. You know how to get the tools that you need. You have the tools that you need, like just one step at a time. Like it was very much constantly coaching myself and getting coaching from the coaches that I had to help me keep moving myself forward.
Let's talk about that a little bit. That's great. I think that that's imperative, right? Once we learn coaching, we learn that we actually can shift our thoughts. We have default automatic thoughts. Like I've got this little post-it note here for myself. Like, what's a thought that reconnects you with your personal power? I work on this every day still, like every day. I don't take it for granted. I have thousands of negative thoughts a day. We all do. So you're really intentionally cultivating that. And then what kind of help and coaching did you get? Because I know when I went out on my own, I was in a business partnership before I started Will. And I knew I needed a coach. I needed more structure. I needed a community. And so I found a program that I was in then for 4 years. So I'm curious. And I had to decide, like, I am worth investing in, that this is an investment that's of critical importance, or else I do not think I could thrive in the way I want to. I really believe this would expedite my growth, and it did. What were you thinking about investing in yourself when you were decreasing the steady job and trying to grow your practice?
Well, I had been investing in myself for a while, so I was making a habit of doing it. The coach that I found really helped me manage my nervous system. So that coaching was essential for me to keep coming back to feeling my feelings. And for lawyers listening, you might think you don't have feelings. Like maybe you're like me, you're like, wait a minute, I have 2 modes. It's go and sleep. That's it. I actually needed to get in connection with the emotions I was avoiding, which were fear of failure, right? That disappointment ahead of time, shame, because I equated so much of my worth with my work. And if I'm not making the money, then it must mean that I'm not working hard enough, right? Like if I'm not a gajillionaire by now, it must be because of some fault of my own that I'm like somehow lazy, which I think is a story so many of us tell ourselves. And so there were some things that I needed to work through, like that feeling of shame, like believing that I needed to work harder in order to show my value. When I started to get that coaching to help me sit with those feelings instead of avoiding them, with one point I used to drink alcohol and I would drink a lot of wine. And some of that was to numb out. I did that. I remember doing that in law school. Like, it wasn't like a new thing. It was something that when I felt stressed, when I felt overwhelmed, I'd have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine to take the edge off. So many lawyers like that. What we're doing is we're numbing ourselves to our lives. We're numbing ourselves to the experiences we are meant to have so that we can grow. And if I kept numbing myself, I wouldn't be able to experience the shame, dissolve the shame, give myself the compassion that I needed, and then learn my lessons so I could continue to move forward. So it's those kinds of things, like having a coach to help me feel my feelings, that kind of thing, essential.
So valuable. Thank you for sharing that. It's still one of the most challenging things. And I see it all the time in my own coaching, and the coaching I do with others is letting us really feel those feelings and not numbing out with alcohol, with sleep, even with go and sleep, with food, with TV. And
over exercising, that's a big one for us high achievers.
As you were saying that, the Brene Brown's definition of shame dropped in for me, which I feel like it might be valuable for someone to hear, which is guilt is like I did something wrong, and shame is I am wrong. Like, essentially, there's something wrong with me, which is why it's so hard to share, but shame can't live in the light. So thank you for talking about it. And I think especially around money and identity and success, there's a lot tied up in that for lawyers. With your coaching, you helped untangle that. Any other things that really helped you move through that?
There was one time, it was like a spotlight was shown on how I was still learning in the best way possible. I was going through master coach certification. They have you do these goals. You do the goals that are the most uncomfortable for you, the ones that are going to stretch you the most, that are going to feel the worst. They're going to bring up all the emotions. And so mine was around creating money, because I had lots of thoughts about money and my ability to create it and how I was with money and all of those things. As we were doing the goals and getting coaching on the goals, one thing that came up was how much I was still beating myself up for not achieving the thing that I wanted.
Which was that, like a certain number?
I don't remember what the number was, but it was like in a time period. So when that came out in some coaching, one of the challenges which I accepted was, for every single night, right before you go to bed, you list 10 things you're proud of yourself for that day. I started doing that, and sometimes it was really hard. But when I did that, it started to crack open this part of me that had cracked open, but not fully, which was this deep compassion for myself and love for myself and showing myself I was enough. And that's something that I think a lot of lawyers struggle with, is we don't think we're enough. And that's part of the reason we're driven to work so hard, and why we burn out at these huge rates, and why we have a higher suicide rate than so many professions. And if we don't address those things, if we don't have somebody to help us point this out to us, then we could live in that interminably, right? We could just live in this suffering and not achieve the life we were meant to have, one that feels fulfilling, one we're of service, one where we get to connect with the people we're meant to connect with, instead of disconnecting from ourselves entirely.
Beautiful. Amen. And that's what we're here doing. That resonates so deeply for me as to why I'm doing well, especially for women lawyers who I think have extra layers of shame and not good enough and body image, and I don't look this way, and I'm too old, and I'm too young, all the things, and trained to be people pleasers. I just want everyone to be living, myself included, the life we're here meant to live, and without shame. That's starting from within. It's so beautiful. So take us into like where you are now and what's happening in your business. What are you loving in your business now? And who are the lucky lawyers you get to work with?
I love my business so much. I mean, it's so fun because I get to be a creator. So some people do paintings, some people create these beautiful sculptures. I feel like my business is that for me.
100% for me as well. Like I definitely, that's my creative outlet.
And I never really, before I started my business, I don't think I ever really thought of a business as a creative outlet. But when I started seeing, look, I have a podcast. I get to create a podcast and deliver it to people every week. I get to create text, right? Like, so I write emails to my email insiders. I do social media posts, whatever that is. I get to do that creative stuff. And at the same time, I get to do it in a way that is creating a life that I love, whether it's the schedule, whether it's where I'm living. We were talking about this before, is like Sedona now because I'm not tied down. And I get to really be the person I am most fully when I'm in my business and when I'm coaching my clients. And the people that I get to work with are the people who are into personal development, which is like my jam. And not everybody is into personal development.
What's interesting, I'm curious, that's so beautiful. I'm reading this book now, Love Money, Money Loves You, and it's helping me see the connection between money and creation and money and creativity. So like you were saying, businesses are creative endeavors and they're also conduits for money, obviously, to flow. So like everything is a creation. Like somebody created the Stanley Cup. Like it didn't just magically appear in the LL Bean store you happen to be in or wherever you see it and buy it, like I did. Everything is created. Everything is a creative endeavor. So I love that your business for you is where you're tapping into your creativity and your flow. So you're moving to Sedona, Arizona. And how did this come about? Because you live now in the Sacramento area, right?
Well, I mean, just to kind of tie it in, the people that I work with one-on-one are my business people, right? Like they're the people who want to grow. They want to co-create in the universe, right? Like they want to create something that's of benefit to people and they want to make money. And this is like the great circle and flow. That's the people that I want to help in that one-on-one container. And then for my people who are either business owners or lawyers who work in any professions, I have my group, which is Timepiece for Lawyers. So they get to come in and like the people who are stressed out and anxious and overwhelmed, we start to really work through that with coaching and make the progress they want to see on that. That's all wrapped up in you get to decide what your life looks like. And so part of my trip to Sedona is embodying that ability to design your life the way you want it, whether it's your business, whether it's how you manage your time in your practice, whether it's your surroundings. It's amazing. And at the same time, it challenges you at every corner.
At every level. Entrepreneurship and doing what you're doing, because it's very much how I approach my business and life too. I liken entrepreneurship and creating your own business like this so intentionally, the greatest kind of spiritual growth opportunity you could experience short of joining a religious order.
And I don't think we were meant to be like monks on a mountaintop either. Like we're meant to experience the ups and downs. And so much of our lives until we come into this kind of work is trying to avoid pain at any cost. But the actual experience and the growth and the development is in those times when you're challenged.
100%.
It's so funny because I'm this way too. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. And I'm like, wait a minute. What if I just let it be okay to feel this? What if it's okay to feel a little scared that I'm leaving my house of 12 years and I'm going to live in a new state for the first time in my life? Like, what if that's okay to be scared? Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Like, that's normal.
It's healthy, actually, to be scared. But you're following, it sounds like there's definitely this through line through all your stories from that yoga nugget of gold you got of like, follow the fear. If you're scared of something, that's the thing to go towards. And so here you are moving your life to Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, it is really exciting, but there's the feelings of like worry. Is everything going to be okay? It's like, of course it is, but I have to coach myself to remind myself of that because there's a part of my body that says, oh my God, this is different, which means danger. And I have to be compassionate to that part of me with my higher self that says, hey, I got you. Like, I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. You're fine. You got everything you need. And there's that back and forth tennis match in our minds. Every single one of us has it. And it's okay to have a tennis match. It's just, what voice do you want to be stronger? Do you want the one that has the personal power to recognize this is what I want for my life? Or do you want it to be the voice that's always scared and wants to run away?
Exactly. And ultimately, at the end of the day, while in the moment it's more challenging to go towards the fear, but ultimately at the end of the day, which is easier, more meaningful, really where you want to head.
Well, which is funny, right? Because easy could be defined differently for different people. The easy thing might be to ignore it and just be like, I think I'm just going to stay here where it's nice and comfy and under the blankets. But I think that now, having gone through that myself, gone through procrastinating on my dreams and not taking action and all the self-loathing and shame, it's actually easier to do the quote unquote hard things of being scared and doing it anyway.
Awesome. Let's just talk a little bit about being a more spiritual person, being really into the personal development and being really out and open about that. Because I think anyone who pays any attention to the stuff I put out will get that. But on a more surface level, I think I keep that a little bit, like it's not the thing I lead with.
I hear you on that one.
I think it's not the thing I lead with. But again, I think anybody tuning in will catch that I'm pretty woo-woo. And then once people are in my container, like I get more and more open about my woo-ness and my calling in the divine and tapping into our higher self. I've actually just started training and learning how to read my Akashic records, and the Akashic records, which is like the soul record that we each carry. So I feel like I'm revealing some more and more here on the podcast and elsewhere. How do you manage that in your business?
It's really interesting because I would say I started waking up probably about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, like that. And so in that time frame, this was something that was totally foreign to me. And I had throughout my life kind of poo-pooed so much of what we're talking about, like in the quote unquote spiritual realms, crystals, meditation, and all that stuff. Even though I'd been in yoga, like I was doing yoga for like over a decade, went to Bali, I did like the healing sessions. I mean, I've done all kinds of stuff because I was looking for my intuition. But it was so fascinating because what I didn't realize was that there was more. And when I started waking up to more and how more expansive this world is and how so much of what we see in our day-to-day life is just a fiction, especially if we're watching the news and we're believing what's on the news, if we're listening to chit chat from people and we're just taking it at face value, then we're asleep. We're not thinking critically. And I started to open up to this world of, wait a minute, maybe there's something to the things that I've been poo-pooing, because I've had these experiences in Bali where I had a vision and I was like, whoa, wait, what? And then I started piecing things together, how over my entire life, I have been guided in different ways. I just didn't see it as guidance. I thought it was a coincidence. I thought I was like brushing it away at every moment. Like, it's a coincidence. Oh, that's nice, But I could see when I looked back at things that had been placed in front of me as what I needed to get to the next step in my life. And I started having these experiences even before connecting with somebody and feeling that deep connection with them immediately. Like I knew them for who knows how long, lifetimes. And I just thought, oh, I just really like them. But then it happened again. And then it happened again. And I'm like, these are people who are meant to be in my life. There are spirits that are meant to be in my life. And I started seeing myself as more than a human. I started seeing myself as much more expansive and how we're all interconnected. I don't know about you, but when I walk through my neighborhood, when I walk through my world, most people are not thinking, oh, like I'm actually really interconnected and I'm much bigger than this being body that I'm in. And so it's difficult. I think it's a challenge for us to be open about that because so many people are still asleep.
And I think our devices, when you said walking around our neighborhood, not only are people not feeling connected, they're distracted from, I think, themselves even further. I'm that person too sometimes. I'm not, I'm no perfect, I'm no saint. That's beautiful. The other day, as I had remembered the Einstein quote, like we can walk around thinking nothing is a miracle or thinking everything is a miracle. When I do that, that helps me expand and tap into that expansive knowing. And I also do meditation and yoga, and that takes me out of just this one physical form and to connect the expanse that really is available to all of us.
And I think that that hits on a really important point, because so much of the world is designed intentionally to take us out of center, to take us out of the quiet. If you think about how everything is designed to keep noise in our head, it prevents us from being quiet. And the quiet is required for us to connect to that higher self.
100%. Over Thanksgiving, I was at a table with some college-age students, and I had this epiphany recently. Like, I was watching on my phone, watching a little clip of the Drew Barrymore show when Gwyneth Paltrow was on talking to Drew's sidekick, the guy, Doug. And Doug was saying to Gwyneth, well, Gwyneth, you're not on TikTok. How come you're not on TikTok? And she's like, yeah, it seems like people just waste hours on TikTok. He's like, yes, exactly. She's like, no, thanks. And I was like, yeah. Girls running an empire. Like, hello.
I don't have time for TikTok.
TikTok, why would I waste hours of my day? And she wasn't like poo-pooing it. She just was like, not for me. All good. She was so clean and clear. And I was like, oh my God, we live in an attention economy where everything is available now at the touch of a button and could be delivered that day. I mean, pretty much everything. You still need to feed yourself, but you don't have to make the food. You can have the food delivered, and you still have to go to the bathroom and put on your clothes, but like kind of everything else.
Well, this is so fascinating.
I was sharing this epiphany at Thanksgiving, and one of the college people, this young man was there. He's like, yeah, it's like, I'm never alone with my thoughts. And so he never had that quiet.
And I do think that the conveniences, although I love them, and of course we want to take advantage of them, we also want to just be mindful that, are we choosing what's best for us, or are we doing what's convenient because we're doing it just for convenience sake? So for instance, like throughout my life, like, I don't know, I think we talked about this. So I've been diagnosed with cancer 3 times. The last time I cured it holistically. One of the hugest parts, another part of it is really connecting with that bigger part of myself, like we've been talking. But it was also removing the toxins from my body, because if we're not intentional with the conveniences of consuming the food at the grocery store, we're letting all these toxins into our bodies. There are so many companies out there we think have our best interests at heart. They say things like, look, it's sugar-free, it's fat-free. We love you. We want you to spend your money with us. But do they truly have our best intentions at heart? And they're making billions of dollars. You want to double check this.
You want to double check. You want to read the fine print. It's the story and the narrative that I'm too busy to go to the hardware store and find the screws that I need there and chat with the guys in the local hardware store. What's to be gained by doing that, by having that local connection? I mean, the attention economy, not only are they making billions when you press buy, they're making billions just with your eyeballs, just with your attention.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And they're changing people's minds that way too, right? Like, it's programming. It's called programming for a reason.
Oh, what's fascinating is like they have to do the programming. They have to program the code to like program us. It literally is programming. Well, let's start to wind down. And I listened to that story you shared. So I would love to link to that episode where you shared the story of curing your 3rd round of cancer holistically with a water fast, which sounded like a very deep spiritual journey.
Oh, it's so funny. I think I talk about this in there. I thought it was going to be a deep spiritual journey too. It was so challenging for me. It did not feel like Buddha on a mountaintop at all.
No, you were like barely able to walk to like take a walk around the neighborhood, right? It's a beautiful story, and I think it's an important episode. So I definitely want to link to that. So where you go really in depth about that experience. It opened my eyes in a lot of ways, that episode. So I would love people to listen to that. One last thing. So now you're in your business, you're moving to Sedona. I sent you an email to just let you know I might be late for this call today. And I got your auto response email back, which blew me away. I loved, it wasn't like I'm out of town. It seems like your standard auto response email, which is like, here's how you can work with me. This is how you can find me for this. And if you're looking to pitch me for my podcast, no, thank you. Like, I don't respond to emails. It is so boundaried. It was so badass. And it's just such a beautiful example of like how you are creating your reality and curating your time and curating what you let in. But there are people who put on an auto response when they're going to a doctor's appointment. People I work with, some of the, who are like, I'm out taking care of my kid who's sick or whatever, they feel a need to share excuses, to give the reason because of the culture they're in. I'm curious what that email does for you and your intention behind it.
Well, one is it's in consideration of the person emailing me, first of all. Like, I don't want to not respond to somebody in the time that they might have an expectation, which is fine. They can have an expectation. But I want them to know, like, you might not get a response because this isn't the kind of email I respond to. And if you are interested in working with me, here's the way to do it. Like, this is what you can do next. And so it's really just addressing the things that would come up. I would do this in my law practice too, because I was in court for 3 days a week. And so I would have 2 days a week where I would respond to emails and voicemails. And I didn't like checking voicemails. I preferred emails. So what I did is I created a voicemail that said, thank you so much for your call. You've reached this department. I'm in court these days of the week. I check my voicemails on these days of the week. I will get back to you within this amount of time. I respond better to email. So if you want to write me an email, here's my email address. And people loved it. They were just so happy that an expectation was set forth, that they had options. At the end, it was like, if this is an urgent matter, dial 0. It'll take you to the assistant, direct call. They loved that.
It's so clear. And I love that your intention behind it is to take care of the person who's emailing you. And it's to just clarify any expectations so that everyone's has the information. You're just sharing your information. It was so beautiful. I was like, damn, I love this.
That's awesome. I think that lawyers, we feel as if we cannot share that because we need people to think that we're working all the time. Don't worry, we're on it. We're working hard for you. But I think that we discount that people don't care if you're constantly working. They care that you're getting the job done and that you will respond to them. And so many lawyers, what they do is they just out of fear don't put those things out into the world like an email responder or a voicemail. And then they don't respond to their emails because they're like, oh my gosh, it's taken me so long to respond. They're going to hate me. Versus just having a responder that says, hey, it usually takes me about X amount of time to do this, or whatever it is that they need to set a boundary around.
Frees up so much bandwidth and energy for you. And just that example you just gave. And this was a victory. This reminded me of a victory. One of my former clients went out on their own. They started their own firm and initially was struggling with some of these kinds of boundaries with getting back to people. I was like, why don't you just have a standard autoresponder? And they were like, no, I couldn't do that at first. And now they're like, total autoresponder takes care of it.
And people love it. And we just have these fears that are based on old firm paradigms that are not serving the clients.
Exactly. Not serving or serving them really, because then they're worried, right? And then sucking all that energy. All right. So Dina, it's been such a pleasure. Where can people find you, learn more about you? Obviously, if they send you an email, they'll get a whole bunch of information. So that's one way.
So the first thing I want to let people know as a resource is Be a Better Lawyer podcast. It is full of all kinds of resources. We talk mindset, time management, business growth, all the things. And then if you want to learn more about working with me, you can go to my website, dinacataldo.com, and I have a work with me page that will lead you to a few different places. And one of them is to set up a strategy session with me. It's complimentary if they want to learn more about what it looks like to work with me one-on-one. Another is to go to Timepiece for lawyers. And right now we're not actively open, but there is a gift there if they want to sign up for that, which is going to help them with their time management and help them really understand the mindset they need to go into managing their time better. And I have another little course in there that is precision planning for law firm growth. So if you're a law firm owner who is looking to grow and want some direction, that's a great place to start too.
Amazing. We will link to all those things. And when is the move to Sedona that you generally anticipate?
So I'm actually going house hunting this weekend. I'm flying down and we're going to see what's going on. So it is pending.
Big things ahead. Sharing such a strong foundation. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I know this is going to help people.
I'm glad. And I always love talking to you. It's so much fun. And you're doing so much good in the world for lawyers and beyond. So I just want to send you a big hug.
Thank you. I want us all to be more free, to be ourselves and to love what we do in the world and see the value of it. And for especially women lawyers to step out of the shoulds and the shame like you've done. Create the job, create the business, create the life that we love. Because I really think that's what we're here for.
And I mean, just by being yourself in the world, you give other people the freedom to do the same. It's just such a beautiful exchange that we get to have with one another just by being ourselves, just by being the fullest version of ourselves.
Why is it so hard, right? I think
it's the programming.
All right. So let's get off the screens and out into the world. And thank you so much, Dina.